Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out my last episode, episode 240 with Ethan D. Aguiar. And on that podcast, he came on, talked about being a filmmaker, why he got into filmmaking, and what kind of led him down this path to create his own business and some of the joys that he has doing it. And I thought it was a really great podcast. We got into a lot of deep conversation of just about being creative, and I thought it was really unique conversation. So check that out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch a podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and it'll pop right up. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up, as well as plugging the 5 Pillars to Create a Meaningful Life. It's only available on Amazon, and if you buy the book and you really enjoy reading it, submit the review on Amazon. It goes a long way in the algorithm. So that brings me to today's episode 241, bringing in my guest, Drent.
Hey man, how's it going?
Glad to have you on the podcast. And I know we had to move some stuff around in the past, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into a lot of the stuff that you rap about and you talk about. And I think this is going to be a really heavy mental health podcast, and I'm really excited about that. I know we were having a great conversation off podcast. I mean, we probably could have talked for hours before this. So
I felt like I was getting that vibe. I was like, oh yeah, you're like, it's only an hour. I was like, we could do like a bonus episode. And just
Yeah.
like, do like 3 hours, like, you know what I mean? And just like vibe out, you know what I mean? But
yeah, and that's like the tough part about like doing the podcast is like trying to squeeze it within an hour to make it digestible for the people. And like this is just the intro. So like if you enjoy your time on the podcast, you want to come back in the future, we can figure that out. But
man.
For this first episode, tell people who you are and what you're doing currently.
So my name is Drent. I define myself as a trauma-informed rapper. I take therapy modalities. I'm a big fan of parts therapy or internal family systems therapy, which is why I got the We All Have Parts shirt on. And also EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is a type of therapy that is used in a lot of high conflict trauma, to sort of as a hypnosis to get people to sort of rewire the neural networks. And I take those main 2 models, and I basically describe myself as Mob Deep, as if they were if they were therapists, you know what I mean? So definitely gonna talk a lot about trauma in my music in general. I'm very confrontational about how to approach trauma. And I tour. So I'm a national touring artist. I know with like 1,300 followers, it doesn't seem real, on the algorithm and all that and everything. But I've played about 24 states in the last 3 years. I've played every time zone in the continental U.S. Just did my longest tour to date, which was about 13 days in the West Coast. So about like a month ago. So that was very humbling, because I've realized that you can drive 9 hours from Rhode Island and be like in the Carolinas or something. You can drive 9 hours and only make it through like Colorado. So it's definitely was a shock.
Yeah, it's a
me.
whole different lifestyle out there. And
Yeah.
also just congrats on doing that. That's like an
Yeah.
amazing feat. And also it's like you're a real life musician. Like you're out here doing that just because like
Yeah.
you're a number on a platform, it doesn't define us. And like
Yeah.
that's a whole different conversation we get into, and like we go down rabbit hole on social media and stuff. But anyways, the part I want to lead into though is building off that childhood
Yeah.
and your family dynamic specifically. And
Yeah.
we talked about off air, I kind of gave you the rundown, but for people that are new to the podcast, I always give like a little like spiel and like cliche of why I do it.
Mhm.
And the reason I talk about family dynamic in the beginning, because we're talking about your life story here.
Mhm.
And I feel like for better or for worse, our family is the groundwork for that. When you think about like
Mhm.
building a house, the foundation.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to start there because we get a basis kind of like how your life builds off of that. And it just like lets the audience kind of see that a little bit, and we chronologically kind of go through your life story. So like with that being said, if you can go into your family dynamic and just whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy that you bring that up, because like the internal family systems model, like that I promote so much, like in my music, talks about like the family, like internally, like in the soul. It's like the critical mass of self is what they call it, like the untouched energy before you were with your parents or in a home, like, you know what I mean, all that stuff where you were not impressionable, or you were impressionable but like you had no sort of direction or feelings towards like anything, you know what I mean? So like growing up, I'm kind of a miracle, I would say. I think my mom, definitely touted that. Like, I weighed 1 pound 11 ounces when I was born. I was born in November. I was supposed to be a Pisces, but I'm a Sagittarius. So, um, I feel like that's a better thing, though. You know what I mean? Because I definitely, um, I feel the fire, in a lot of what I do, and a lot of passion and energy. But yeah, I weighed 1 pound when I was born. I had a cerebral hemorrhage before even I was born, and then my mom had a blood clot disorder, and basically was having some symptoms or even a clot per se while she was giving birth to me. So they had to cut me out because I was not breathing. It was like a notorious BIG, like the umbilical cord's wrapped around my neck. I'm taking my last breath. Like, so, yeah, I was very lucky. And I had a lot of, issues, I would say, growing up. They had to put me in a something to stretch out my legs at night. I used to hate the metal feeling of putting my feet in that on my bed, but they were afraid my legs were gonna cross. Like I was gonna be like it's funny. I've never really watched or remember The Little Mermaid, but Ursula, like like the squid,
Mhm.
kind of like whatever you would call her. I don't know, like like
Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, but like like kind of how
I know.
everything's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
crossed. So yeah, like my legs would have crossed. I was definitely later on like diagnosed on the spectrum. They called it Asperger's like back in the day, and then now it's like you're on the spectrum, and it's like, yeah, cool, whatever. But um yeah, it definitely like young, a lot of anxiety around my fragility, in the world. And I think the one thing that has shown later on in life for me is I would say the improvement. Like I think I've come way farther since being in my early 20s. You know what I mean? But um there were points where like they didn't think I was gonna drive, like I'd be able to hold down a job. Like one time my dad had filled out an application for me at Home Depot, and he took like a personality test, and he did it for me, and I came back as a psychopath, and they didn't hire me. You know what I mean? So like it's one of those things where you're like, like I've come so far from the Home Depot debacle. You know what I mean? But nah, for real. Shout out to my dad because he was just trying to help, but he would just be like, I answered the way I would have answered it. I was like, don't do that. You know what I mean? So, um, but yeah, just a lot of fragility of being an infant and being alive. And I didn't make eye contact with my parents till like my early teens. Like I didn't really know what they looked like a lot of the time. I always knew them by their shoes because I was always afraid to make eye contact with people. And
Can I ask you something?
yeah.
Like, were you aware being diagnosed like on the spectrum at the time, with
Yeah,
Asperger's?
I
Like, and
think
what did that feel like to you?
I think I knew there was something that made me different. Like, I think also growing up in Bush era, there's a very distinct uh way people described you, like by being homophobic and calling you like, if I'm gonna say it, like retarded and stuff like that. And there was that time where like it was a big shame. And obviously now, like, if you're queer and you're on the spectrum, like people are proud to be that way. But I kind of came up in a time where like that was very misunderstood. And I think it was very like outcasty, you know what I mean? And there was always, I was always kind of awkward. I don't think I ever really fit in. I felt loneliness for a really long time in my life, even into my 20s, where I like, until I really started rapping, I used to count days until someone would speak to me, like months. Like no one would say anything to me in college, like community college, you know what I mean? So, um, yeah, like there was definitely some things going on for sure. And then I think, you know, that that caused even some more trauma and made me vulnerable to certain things. You know what I mean?
And the reason I asked is my youngest brother is autistic and he's
Yeah,
on the spectrum, and a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is stuff that I've seen him struggle with,
yeah,
and stuff that, like, my parents weren't sure if he was able to, like, graduate high school or have
yeah.
jobs, and,
Thought I'd be
like,
on disability kind of
yeah,
thing. You know what I
and, like,
mean?
he graduated high school, he works 2 jobs, and
Yeah,
for him, he can't drive, he just didn't feel comfortable doing that,
yeah,
but he decided since he can't do that, he got an electric bike, has all the safety equipment, he's not like one of these kids
yeah,
out here driving like nuts.
yeah.
Like, he's, like, legit, like, professional about it, like, works his 2 jobs, like, has his passions, he loves, like, video games and Pokemon and
Hmm.
anime, like, that's his thing, and, like, knows everything about everything with that stuff,
Yeah,
and it's like, the life that he's living now, we none of us probably could have predicted that based on where
yeah.
he was. So, like, I think it's, like, impressive to see yourself kind of, like, coming into yourself as you're growing up and, like, going through these things, because as someone whose brother is autistic and I've watched him struggle with some of this stuff and, like, talking about eye contact or, like, for him not getting sarcasm and not having
Yeah,
that
I'm
trouble.
I'm very like funny now as an adult. Like I find myself very funny, but I grew up in a religious family. My parents are both American Baptists, so I think they find my humor to be very like vulgar, as my mother would say. It's vulgar. So, instead of vulgar. So, she's like, I love Jerry Seinfeld. And I'm like, yeah, but Jerry Seinfeld doesn't support Palestine. So he doesn't swear, but he's like, a Zionist. So it's like, but that's like what you can say now because you didn't say that 20 years ago because you were just like, oh, he doesn't swear. Like, what a nice guy. But it's like, like that's kind of, but that's the stuff I'll say to someone at like a dinner table. And it's like, a big shock still. So I guess in terms of that, like even bringing up the Home Depot thing about my dad earlier, like my parents always say you don't have a filter, and I guess in some ways I really just don't care. Like I feel like a lot of the way I approach life is to just be honest with people. Like I'm not gonna lie to people, you know what I mean? I've never even been that way when I'm in the studio. Like I don't want my mans to tell me like the song is gas if it's not gas. Like I've had some of the best music I've ever made or remade was because I had a best friend like my homie Lewis Morris, who's like an amazing beat maker and like rapper that he was just like, nah man, you've been rapping the same way for 8 years. You need to do something different. You know what I mean? So but growing up, like there was a lot of anxiety about I think as a kid, I struggled in school, social cues, ended up having like, sexual trauma at like 9, 10 years old with like a friend of mine, where like I was basically exposed to like, having sex like at a young age and, doing things around that and everything. And then, um, pretty much fourth grade to like 10th grade was kind of a blur, in a lot of ways. I had a lot of symptoms, I think, of PTSD, anxiety, even things that I'm kind of thinking about now that just manifested. Like I would have a lot of health anxiety when I was getting, into my like late adolescence, early teens about like, oh, is like this thing on my arm, does it mean something? Or like on my body. And that's definitely a lot that carried over even into like my adult years and through COVID where like I kind of had like a mental breakdown and all of that kind of came as like a tidal wave of emotions. But like, the sexual trauma was a big thing for me. And, it's, weird for me now because we're such in a movement where like it's, um, like people want to hold abusers accountable and all that. And I'm for that. You know what I mean? I'm for, I think, years, especially if you're a woman or a femme presenting, like institutional justice and reform and all that and everything. Um, I learned very on in therapy though that like I learned a phrase that was really important to me, and I think about naming one of my albums at some point. This, but is if you're looking for justice, don't look here. And I really like like when it came to like the sexual trauma that I was exposed to, like later on, that person tried to add me on Facebook and talk to me, and I was just like, that door's closed. Like I'm not trying to necessarily like have a relationship with you or hold you accountable or anything like that. It was just more like, no, I've had to do the work. Like I don't want to do the work with you. You know what I mean? Like what I've experienced. You know what I mean? And person happened to be like a year, I think, younger or older than me, like female, but it's like, um, you know, like I've done enough work on my doing EMDR and doing um IFS work, but mainly EMDR. That's really what got me over the trauma because I had um well, I mean, I'll let you you can guide or I can just go right into it.
Yeah,
You know what I
so
mean?
I just wanted to say, like, I'm sorry that that did
Nah,
happen to you, and like,
honestly, I don't feel like it's a
but
bad thing, man.
but
You
at the
know?
like, I think you should be proud of how you've approached it and overcome it. Obviously, it took years of work to get there, and
Yeah.
it's still always going to be something to work on and like deal with because
I really don't believe that, man. I feel like people when they say that, like, and this is gets into a bigger issue with me, is like if you're really doing the work in therapy, like there is a point where you're on the other side. And I think it's not always the case, but like I was very blessed to have a therapist who I still see to this day, David Medeiros, and he was really instrumental in getting me to talk about doing the work, you know? And uh yeah, like that's all, I don't believe that trauma is something that you hold on forever. I just don't. Like I think like I feel like that does a disservice to what trauma is because it's like a mistake. It's not supposed to be on the soul. Like, it's like when Louis C.K. talks about like the difference between racism and sexism. Like racism is a mistake. It's like a learned something that you learn, but sexism is an internal fabric of the DNA of why relationships are the way they are. I look at trauma as like it's like a bruise and it's like you're supposed to heal it and the body is supposed to rewire itself and know when that comes up again that it feels safe enough to confront it or it's not as afraid of it or it's really neutralized by it at all. You know what I mean? So EMDR was monumental for me in my 20s doing that. Like I still do it. I love it because sometimes I still struggle with not necessarily the sexual trauma, but the feelings I've had about myself around that. And I call it like a leak in the brain. And what I do is I kind of patch that up, you know what I mean? And rewire it and get the brain. And if it's not running on all six cylinders, it was running on five, I get it running back on six again.
yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm kind of was going
Yeah.
with it though. Is like it's not like because I like the way that how you phrase that of like healing from like the injury to the soul. Like I think that's a really
Yeah.
great way to put that because like you're moving past it and you're learning from it and you're kind of just not letting that define you. I think it's kind of what I'm hitting on is that kind of like the feelings and the emotions that you're kind of talking about right there of like
Yeah.
that leakage or quote unquote and
Mhm.
like addressing that and like handling that and managing that. And
Yeah.
that's the stuff that I think that people who go through traumatic experiences sometimes have to work through and like
Mhm.
it happens throughout our life and obviously not every case is the same like I'm not going to generalize and like
Mhm.
or be specific. I guess I think it's more of a general thing of just like everyone's going to have their own different issues and how
Yeah.
they deal with it like what's the saying of like your worst day is your worst day
My
like and
therapist calls it Eskimos see 40 different versions of snow, and so do you. So, like, the way an Eskimo is like never surprised by the type of like snow it would see like in a storm because each snowflake or the way it comes down is always like going to be a little bit different. Like, that's kind of how, um, like he taught me that in the sense of like, that everyone cries differently. Like, I think, when you do EMDR and trauma therapy, you wanna have, like, I mean, I love Good Will Hunting. That's, like, my favorite movie. I've sampled it, like, multiple times, even on, like, my most viral not I would say viral or, like, songs. I have, like, the breakup scene where I wrote a song called Bird's Nest about, like, a West End poly relationship I was in, and, yeah, like, I love Good Will Hunting. Like, I wanna sample I wrote a song about Game 6, like, the retelling of the Game 6 story, like, in that movie, and I'm, like, pretending I'm Sean, like, at the bar and stuff like that, Robin Williams, who plays the character. But it's like yeah, like, yeah, like, you wanna have that moment where it's like, it's not your fault, and, you cry and you embrace and it all kinda comes out, but it's not always like that for people, you know what I mean? I think that's, like that gets into other issues, which I can talk on the podcast. But I think this is sort of, yeah, not Dan as much, but way more now. The sensationalism of trauma and sort of the over generalization of it, and sort of like, just this loosely defined verbiage around it. You know what I mean? Like I'm very, you know, like I think people gotta do the work, man. And you got a lot of people on Instagram, like my therapist tells me, get that from someone you trust, man. Don't be sharing a meme. Like if you're in a room with someone and you're whether you're paying them or not, but like if you're with a therapist and you're really diving into how to confront something, get that from someone you trust. Like don't be sharing some meme and thinking like that's gospel, man. Like, that shit drives me crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the internet where people are acting almost as professionals in the field without having the experience, the knowledge, like, and I hate some using this term, but like I guess like the degree sometimes, like,
Yeah.
because like I don't think a degree defines you as a person,
No,
but
I
like,
mean, I wanted to be a social worker when I was in college. I'll get to that a little in a little bit, but like I just, I didn't have the within like the ability to like, my therapist calls it being permeable. Like it just kind of floats over you, like like a passing through. You
mhm.
know what I mean? And like, um, I don't have that ability with when I hear trauma. Like I will binge eat. I will be very, very upset when and part of that, I think being on the spectrum made me very, very aware and being autistic and being kind to people and considering emotions. Like I'm a big even as a kid, I can't stand an injustice. I would like the no filter thing. I go to Disney World. I'd ask people what they thought about gay marriage while I'm on the waiting for the it's a small world after all. I'm like, hey sir, what do you think about gay marriage? And my friend's like, you can't do that. I'm like, but why? Like, I want to know. Like, is like the injustice of it. You know what I mean? So I can never stand, that. And then you go into high school, like I was having a horrible time at like a Catholic high school, and then
Can we steer into that actually a little bit?
yeah,
Not
so
like
the
that specific.
no, I want to. That's why
All
I'm
right, okay,
guiding. Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Because I want to talk about like the high school experience and then going towards college.
yeah. So Catholic high school, like no friends. I actually have one friend that I actually saw get married recently. Shout out to my friend Zen. Jen was their original name, but they're Zen. So um, really, really cool person that kind of like was the only connection I had there. But then I ended up going to a therapeutic program at 16. So I had finished my sophomore year. And then a week later, I got driven up to New Hampshire, um, and was at a place called Shoreditch Academy for 18 months. It was a committed stay. And I finished my last 2 years of high school there. And this is a whole nother thing too that people can research, but like uh Paris Hilton is very anti-therapeutic boarding school because her parents sent her to one that was like unethical. But a lot of these schools were very like unethical. But like for me, my place, it saved my life. It just did. It put me on the path that I'm at now to confront trauma because I was in a group therapy session. And I remember to this day, and I've messaged this kid. I don't know if he ever read my message, but this kid on Justin Hill, he was from Virginia Beach, and you were in peer groups, so you had different people in your peers that were graduating or not graduating or going back home, whatever. So he's about to graduate, and he's having sort of a cathartic moment, but like a mental breakdown in group therapy, and he's like, "I can't leave here till every stone is turned over." And I don't know what I was doing, but I heard that, and it was like earth shattering to me. And I went to my counselor, Oz. I told him in group therapy I wanted to talk to him after, and I sat up on the bench on the hill and I told him about the 8 years of sexual trauma that I was holding in. And man, that like changed my life, bro. Like it was like mind altering, like life altering. You know what I mean? So uh shout out to Justin, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what he's doing now. I think I've messaged him on Facebook. I don't know if he'll ever read that message because I think it's still sitting in the not read pile, but that changed my life, man. Like, I was gonna like go and fake it, and I was gonna go back home to Rhode Island, and I was gonna jump off a building and die. And that like changed my life, man. Like, that was like the most wild statement I heard, and then, I really dove into the program after, so it was, like, 3 months in, and I really spent the last 15 months, 8 until I went home in December of 2008, um, just really confronting my shit, and then, in my going back home, I saw my therapist and ended up, doing EMDR and kinda
Can you
really.
explain what that is for people who might not know
So
what it
yeah,
is?
yeah, perfect. Yeah, EMDR is basically like a form of hypnosis. So you use the Francine Shapiro, who I reference in my song Parts or Parts Two. Um, she had like an illness, and she was walking through the woods or through the streets, and she had noticed when she was thinking about her trauma, she was looking left to right or right to left, and she was noticing this sort of neural networks like in her brain, like this feeling of like an openness, like a third eye portal per se. And yeah, so EMDR, what that does is usually a lot of people use pads, they'll use headphones, or they'll use like the tapping. But the traditional way is you take two fingers and you do 26 reps, um, right to left, left to right, and you do 26 back and forth. And what that does is you think about the worst thing that's happened to you per se, like the worst image you have of the trauma. You rate it from a scale of 0 to, I think it's 0 to 7, 7 being the worst fear imaginable, 0 being absolutely no disturbance at all at all. I'm quoting my therapist, like, because he says it in such, like, a rhythm. He's like, "Rank it from 7 to 0, 7 being the worst thing you can imagine, and 0 being absolutely no disturbance at all." You know what I mean? So, um and then you think about the trauma and you do the sets and you start to notice, over time you do multiple. For me, I was a supercomputer, like dude, I saw like Haunting in Connecticut, like shit coming out of me type shit, you know what I mean? But it rewires the brain. If you look at the image on a brain, like trauma, whether it's physical or the physical, maybe a little bit less, but more like a mental trauma, you'll usually see like a dark cloud. It's almost like it looks like North Korea, like there's no internet, like there's no lights, you know what I mean, from space kind of thing. And what you tend to see is when you do EMDR or internal family systems, if you combine it, but internal family systems is it gets a little more granola for me in the therapy world. Like it's wild and amazing, and it's hotter than EMDR. EMDR, it's kind of like Master P versus Birdman. Like EMDR walked so IFS could run, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But EMDR, you see on the brain, these lights start to turn on in the brain, and the brain will literally rewire itself. You know what I mean? And so you'll see what used to be damaged there, or like a cloud on that brain. You'll see an entire lighting of the brain that was not there before. And so that shit's wild to me, man. Especially in like mass tragedies, one thing that the government does do good, depending on the administration, but usually overall, especially when because there's no like gun control and stuff. When there's like a mass shooting, they try to deploy EMDR therapists, especially to young kids and adults, to start the therapy as soon as possible and get them access to it. Because if you can get to it pretty much right away or within the first couple months, there's a significant chance that it will not sort of take a hold of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I mean that sounds life changing, and it's
yeah.
crazy. I feel like those type of therapies aren't widely broadcast. Like I
So
don't know a ton of that.
Providence to Boston, I call it the Silicon Valley of therapy, because Bessel van der Kolk, who runs the trauma center in Boston, he wrote the book The Body Keeps the Score, which is a song that I've done series of songs on that book. I think his stepson either was sent my song, like someone at a open mic at the venue Riff Raff in like by Onlyville in like South Providence. Not what's it, probably more like West End Providence. The bartender there sent it to him. Like they didn't realize like he was the stepson, but it's like, oh, it's like my dad's book. You know what I mean? So like it was crazy. But I mean I love the body keeps the score. Dick Schwartz, who started internal family systems or parts therapy from Chicago originally, now lives in like Boston area. And then obviously my therapist Dave Medeiros is like a legend to me in my in my opinion. But he was trained under the tutelage of, rest in peace now, Frank Pescalito, who came up with the statistics for the abuse of, like, I think it's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 for 1 in 3 for women and 1 in 4 or 5 for men. So that's something that was used to this day, for like people who experience some type of sexual trauma, abuse, touching, stuff like that. So
I mean, it's definitely this area. I could definitely agree with you. Like, there's definitely some advancements here that aren't in the other parts of like this country.
yeah, man, because I've
And
played all over the country, and like I just going to, like, for example, like, like New Orleans and stuff like that. Like it's just like another. I mean, I love New Orleans. It was a great place to play. I played like 4 shows there, but it's just, um, it's just different. It's a different world, man. In
that's why
certain
it's
parts.
important to like get out of your place that you're from and go see other parts of the, whether it's the country or different parts
Yeah,
of the world, because it really does open your mind. Like I didn't get a chance like to talk about this with you off here, but like in right after college when I graduated, I moved to Fort Worth, Texas. I was part of like a whole
yeah.
job
I
thing.
played. I played with some homies from I played in Dallas. I didn't play in Fort Worth, but I played in
Fort
Dallas.
Worth, Dallas area. It's like
Yeah.
45 minutes between each other. But like the whole point of me bringing that up was just like I went there into I was in Augusta, Georgia for a little bit,
Yep.
and like
I work for Southern Lotteries in Georgia as one of the
so it's like
clients.
just getting out there though was like life changing because it just put me in a different place to really critically think about different things, whether it's
Yeah.
about myself, where I'm at, how I'm feeling emotionally.
What do
Like
you find is the biggest difference in terms of mental health living in those 2 areas versus here? And I don't mean it in the sense
I
of
feel like
like
it's talked about more here. Like
yeah,
there, it's. I mean, the way of living down there is different. It's
smiling, smile
so everything's
face,
happy, like and
yeah.
like it's interesting because like what's the saying? Like there's something of like people from this
Oh, yeah,
area are
it's
like
Northerners. It's Northerners are kind, but they're not nice.
yeah
Oh
yeah
no,
yeah yeah, yeah.
it's Southerners are kind, but
Not
not. No, Northerners are kind, but not nice, and Southerners are nice, but not kind.
yes that 100%.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you read my mind on that too. I'm glad you knew I
Well,
was
it's
going with
crazy
that.
because I just toured with my man Symmetry, who's from Texas, and he like when he comes up here, like I booked him a show from Cincinnati to Rhode Island. He came to Rhode Island to like on an off day. He drove 18 hours to play in Rhode Island to like 12 people, like absolute legend. And Troy's like an English teacher, but he's just so like he's just like, it's so different out here. He's like, y'all are really fucking rude and like cocky. And you know what I mean? And like and my man Troy's like, he's like, run the ones. Like, I mean, everyone got a problem? Meet me on the basketball court. Like, I'll smoke you. Like, you know what I mean? But it's different, man. Like when I was in Arizona with him, I went to a Circle K, right? It's 2 in the morning. We played this great show at the Brick Box on this last tour. Shout out to like that dude because he's cool with like Sage Francis out here and Jesse the Tree and all that. Like that's the homie. But like I'm so tired. I've never been in a Circle K, first of all, because we just don't have them here. So I guess you grab the little. I love a roller grill, bro. Like with the eating disorder, like and stuff that I deal with, roller grills, bro, like that's like I'm like, yo, I just love a gimmick. I love like a handheld sandwich thing. I'm into that shit. So I'm like, oh, they don't got sandwiches. So I'm like, let me get the roller. I touched it with my bare hands, right? And this guy comes up to me and he's like in military gear. And he's like, did you touch the roller? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, you need to pay for all of those, or we're gonna pay for one and we're gonna throw the rest out. But it was just like a culture shock to me because I'm in the middle of Arizona on tour, and I was just like, it's just security guards there, bro. It's because everyone's armed. It's like not just open carry, it's constitutional carry, which basically means you can get a gun, no permit. As long as you're an adult, you can get a gun. No problem. You know what I mean? So it's like everyone's armed, and I'm just like so freaked out. I thought this guy was gonna like arrest me or shoot me. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like this that definitely was like not like kind but not like or nice but not kind, like you know what I mean, like, it was just like I was just so like shocked, you know what I mean,
And I
but
think you need that though, like
yeah,
because it it's perspective. Like we
Bro,
need perspective
I
in
went
life.
back to the hotel and I'm usually chatty. Like as you can see, I just interrupted you. You know what I mean? But I was quiet. My tour mate was like, "You've never been quiet this whole tour," and I literally just went right to bed. Like I was shocked. You know what I mean? It's just like it's wild,
Yeah,
bro.
because it definitely, especially if you're not used to something like that, it just brings up this different emotion because like it's like opening up your eyes to something that you were unaware of. And like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people could really use that. Like I'm a big like advocate of international travel because like getting
Mhm.
out of the country and seeing other countries is so valuable because like it's not the same everywhere else. And like I
Yeah.
don't think people fully I don't know why we don't realize it. And obviously I understand that
It's like
the
when
country's really big.
motherfuckers and like I have a client that I still see in Michigan, my homie Zach, ZK. And he's a really cool kid, but his parents are always like, they're always like, oh, California. Like, you know what I mean? I went to California, played in LA. I was like, it's affordable. Breakfast was cheaper than in Rhode Island. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but if you watch Fox News or you watch a certain news station, you're just like, oh, like they're doing this, that. It's like, yeah, gas was $6. It sucked. You know what I mean?
It's
But
also
it's,
based on like where they're located on the map, and that's why
yeah,
things
you
are
know
going to
what I
cost.
mean?
Like certain
Like,
things are going to cost more because of the location that they are
but like,
geographically.
I just
It's
feel like people like I played in Koreatown. I played like in East LA, like by Commerce, California, which is right outside LA. You know what I mean? But like, like I didn't feel like people. Like it was a lot more of like in LA, like and the shows I the second show I did was like more like Mexican gangbangers. You know what I mean? So it's like just a different world, man. Like you just don't like you see like shit like that like in reels and stuff. It's really like out there like that. You know what I mean? It's just a different world. You know what I mean? Like motherfuckers be grilling in the parking lot. You got a rap show and they're like doing like they just putting up a grill and they're grilling dogs, burger. It's just a different world, man. Like if you're out here, like in Rhode Island, like you do that, like someone's like, "You have a fucking permit," like thanks. So it's like, so yeah, it was a shock, man, for real. Like that was like the moment where I was like, "Oh, like I'm not, like I'm not from here." You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm sure he feels the same way when people are like, like New Yorkers are like, "Suck my dick," like you know what I mean? Because like, yeah, it's like, why is every New York vernacular somewhat sexual? Like, you know what
There's
I mean?
something
It's
happened
like,
there.
like there's something going on there, but nah, shout out to the Knicks. I like this guy.
Nah, nah.
I like this
Shout out to the
I like
Knicks. No way.
you know what I mean? Like,
Go
oh no, 'cause
Celtics.
I was actually on tour in Texas on the West Coast when there was the finals. So I was rooting for the Knicks just to be combative. But like, dude, it was great. Like, cause my man Troy, when Wemby took the last shot of the final, he's like, nothing but backboard. He's like, fucking kill me. Kill me, dude. So, yeah, I thought that was a great run. I'm an underdog. So in high school, I bought a George Mason hoodie the year they went to the Final Four,
Mhm.
before they even went to the Final Four. My teacher was like, they're going to get blown out by Seton Hall. And I said, they'll go to the Final Four. And I was right. And if I actually bet money, I would have made money. But I love an underdog. I'm a big Cinderella person, like, and especially in sports.
I typically like that. I just
I'm a
don't like the
Yankees fan
Knicks.
though, like, so it's like Evil Empire, like, you know what I
Nah.
mean? Like, I mean,
Socks, baby.
it's like,
Socks all day.
dude,
I'm a Boston guy, man.
as I've gotten older, I've been more, I think like liking the.
Brainwashed to liking the
No,
Yankees.
I like the. I honestly, I like the Red Sox more. I like the way they play, but I just like I grew up liking the Yankees. You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
get
mean?
it, man.
So it's
That's
like but dude, it's like I'll watch the Red Sox now. I'm like, damn, this is like such a better broadcast too. Just the way they talk about the game, like
it's
it's
Fenway Park, man.
like yeah.
It's iconic. Like it's old. The seats are shitty, but that ballpark and just like the
I know because they
environment.
got rid of like Yankee Stadium. Like
Yeah, I
that was the
mean,
cathedral.
rebuilt
So
it
it's
and
like
everything. It's different, and it's.
now
I
it's
mean,
like a chip. Now it's like a chip shot, and like is that right? I think it's right. It's
right,
right field.
right field. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like literally you can like blow on the ball and it like it's out of there.
brings.
Like
Let me bring us back. We've derailed a
yeah,
little bit, and I think it's always good. But I want to steer back towards after you're finishing the program.
yeah.
You're looking at college as an option. You're talking getting more deeper into your therapies and take me down the route.
So when I was in community college, I ended up dating someone who was my first real experience with like severe PTSD and borderline personality. And I was ready. So when I was going to school, I was in community college. I was working at a factory. Um, like family friend. It was like the worst job because I had a boss who was like a total narcissist and abusive. He would put me on the scale at work and make people see if I've gained weight. And I think about that dude, and that just like I have a song about him that I'll never put out. But I have a line where I say, "You're just someone no one would hit like their ex bitches." Like I just hate that dude so much. And yeah, man, I was in a factory. I was going to school, and I got into this relationship. It was only like 3 months, but it was like the worst 3 months of my life at the time. And that's when I started vomiting, like just so easily. And then I would go to like fast food restaurants. Like I would drive around South Attleboro and cry for years. Honestly, like I was even when I was working at other jobs like Trader Joe's, which is a fucking great company to work for, by the way. But like, yeah, I would drive around and I would binge eat. I'd spend hundreds of dollars on a Friday and Saturday night going to Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Wendy's, and then I would vomit in each parking lot. Then I would go home, and yeah, it just altered my life. Um, because I watched someone that was really in pain, and I couldn't do anything about it. It affected my views on religion because there was like a religious component to like what she went through. And like I was young and I wanted to just kind of connect with someone, and um yeah, I I didn't stay too long. It was like so short, you know what I mean? Not like at 3 months, that's like nothing. You know what I mean? But it was so long, and I ended up falling asleep at the wheel in my car at one point, and um yeah, it was really it was like really difficult. I watched this person wither away, and I still know they withered away because like I obsessed about them into my 20s, like even after I broke up with them, because it was like it felt like it wasn't my choice. It felt like it was because of this thing that she struggled with. Like we were never really intimate. You know what I mean? We could never really like even do more than kiss because like she would just it would be like these vicious attacks. You know what I mean? Like panic attacks and like disassociation, like not remembering the first time I went to kiss her. She slammed her head like into like my passenger door. Now it's just like I don't remember the whole memory, but I remember it's almost like a movie. Like I was sitting there, like just staring at the windshield, and she was just screaming, and I just like zoned out. So I was like, I don't know what just happened. You know what I mean? But I got sucked into that. Like I cared about her. Like I felt like we were like different, but I also felt like I had to give her the benefit of the doubt. Like none of that really had to do with her. It was like what she had went through. You know what I mean? And so, um, but it became more clear like there were people close to her, like in her religious group, that were hurting her. You know what I mean? And um, that like affected my views on religion. It affected my views on trauma because I wanted to go to college to work with abuse victims because of what I had been through. Like I wanted to work specifically with women and be like a trauma therapist for like domestic violence, like high conflict, high sexual conflict situations. And then I realized I didn't have it. And I think that's why even to this day I struggle with the food addiction because I have a lot of guilt about um not finishing that. You know what I mean? So like I'll just finish food, like I'll eat myself to death because it's something I can complete instead of like what my life could have been. But I have to guide myself and believe that like um doing the music and integrating those things that I'm passionate about like has impacted people's lives. But yeah, it's like it's a lot. It was a lot for me to go through then, and then even into my 20s, like I ended up getting into like polyamorous relationships and getting more kind of, I think, exposed to some people with borderline. And even like my last relationship had elements of narcissistic and BPD. And I'm just very like I was telling you earlier, like I had this haircut ever since I started growing my hair out like this in 2018 and shaving my hair and growing a beard because I didn't have a beard before. I used to look like 45. Like my girlfriend now says I looked like a 45-year-old single dad in 2015. Like I could show you photos, bro. Like I looked horrible. Like no riz. But like I told you earlier, my therapist has this thing where it's like maybe it's not just the haircut, it's the ticker tape, which is like, I seek the emotional unavailability of my father, and um I have the panic and fear of the unknown of my mother. And I project both of those things onto, like, especially a polyamorous woman, where like it's always like this, like, my time is finite, but my love is infinite. And it's like, no shit, time is finite. Everyone fucking dies. I always hated that when poly people would say that. Like, my time is finite. Like, what do you think you're special? Like, you think you've outlived like Ted Williams, like in a cryogenic cell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's weird. But like, yeah, I definitely got exposed to like polyamory world for a while. Was polyamorous on and off for 7 years and 8 years. Yeah, and then I got out of this last relationship, but a lot of that is, I wouldn't say it's unresolved, but definitely I have to be very mindful with the food addiction. You know what I
It
mean?
definitely
'Cause
seems like a lot of that stuff lingers and the stuff that you're managing and like you're
I
dealing
think it
with.
lingers because I have to, like what Good Dog Petter came up here, Tyler Valerio, when he
Mhm.
came up here, like I'm an addict, and I I could do the work on food addiction and go to a food therapist and talk about my unhealthiness, like, but of it to some degree. But I've been sober for 2.5 years, so I've had no fast food, no soda, nothing but a drive-through except like Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? So, and even then, I don't really feel good eating it anymore. So my mom and I, we go sometimes and talk. So I'll get Dunkin'. You know what I mean, but um, yeah, like the food addiction, like there's nothing good that makes me feel good about eating that food. It doesn't even feel good to me to eat it. So it's like the resolve would be for me to be like, what? So I can have McDonald's breakfast and eat it and not feel addicted to it. It's like the food is addictive. And so like, for me it's like there's nothing good from it. It's like, to me, like McDonald's breakfast, like a sausage, bacon, cheese, and hash brown with butter sauce, like I can eat two of those, and like I can eat six of those, and it's like heroin. Like I can feel it in my brain. Like I feel like the drug. I mean, it's like when they fucking, like, I don't know, like they put like Wolverine in like the water like chamber or whatever it was, and he comes out and he's got like the metal and shit. Like it's like that, man. Like I struggle with food addiction a lot, and I've been skinny a lot. I've been overweight. I'm overweight now to some degree, but everyone says like they don't notice my belly and stuff, but a lot of that goes back to like working in the factory with like a narcissistic piece of shit who would be like, "Oh, you're 174 and you're gaining a belly, and it's now I'm 290." So it's like, what the fuck is the difference? Like, you know what I mean? Like people like that would always point out my belly because it's the way like my family carries weight. You know what I mean? Everyone in my family, my grandfather, my father, my brother, and like I remember one time, man, this is gonna sound really like fucked up, but I felt like I had to say it. Like this girl came up to me at an art program I worked at, and she was a coworker, and she was like, "Look at you, 10 months pregnant," and she slapped my belly, and I was like, "If you do that again," I said, "I will fucking hurt you," and I was really upset. And she pulled me into her room, and she was like, "I'm really, really sorry," and then she never came back. And but that's like shit people have done to me my whole life. Like I had a landlord who I lived with for 6 years, and like not in the same house, but he would come and he'd be like, "Look at you gaining weight." Like I just find that so
It's
disrespectful
crazy,
and
especially.
inappropriate. But that's like a lot of what I've dealt with my whole life. I think with the autism, but getting back to that is like that's an injustice, and I can't stand that. Like I can't stand when that stuff happens because like one, it's like I feel like I don't know, like is it a social cue thing for me? Like I've never been able to figure out, but like it's like why would someone feel they can do that
Yeah,
to
no,
me?
that I mean, I wouldn't say that's even social cues because that's just not right. Like straight up, I'm
But
telling you,
that's how
like
a lot of it is, man. Like with me, like when I, especially when I deal with people in the music scene. Like I'll have people say disrespectful shit to me.
Bringing up the music scene, can we steer
Yeah,
into
yeah,
like
it's fine.
how you got into that and like how you
I
incorporate
just
some of the
started. I was
traumas?
a straight edge rapper, so I was drug free till I was 2015. And I was doing like the worst rap ever. It was horrible. It sucked, and I thought I was like hot shit. Like I was mad delusional, and then uh started meeting people like Jesse the Tree when he was first starting out, from Providence, Lewis Morris, um, my homie Edibles, the DJ, shit like that. So, um, yeah, like I yeah, I was doing that and I was doing straight edge rap, and then uh, kind of ended up not really putting out music. I put out my first like EP, Fragments. I was doing a series on Glass. So like the fragments of the souls, like fragments, shards, pieces. And then the one I've never done is Reflections. So I'll probably do it at some point. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Before I die. You know what I mean? But I put out Fragments in 2016. Rob Dugai, who's music journalist in Providence, put it as one of the top 10 best records. Like I put out like in November on my birthday, and 2 weeks later he put it as like in I think it was in Vanyaland in Boston. He put it as one of the top 10 New England best EPs at the time that came out that year. So I was like 2016. I was like, that's wild. Like I mean, so I just went from there. Was in a group called Ill Words for a little while with my homie Clean, who I don't speak to anymore. I actually saw him recently because there was a lot of trauma over that friendship ending, especially how it ended in the studio. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, hey man, this is it. Like look at like that's it. And I saw him recently, and it was really cool to like heal that. You know what I mean? And see him doing his thing and being a poet now and not really rapping as much, but it was really cool to see him in his element. I just came out and supported and did that and told him about my life since then. And it was just, it's weird, man. You realize like, certain people don't hold on to stuff. I think the autism in me,
Hit
like
your
I'm
hat
very,
on your hat.
yeah,
It's
I
a fly.
remember. I
No,
remember.
no, I'm saying there's a fly on your
Oh,
hat.
there is? Oh,
Yeah, it
shit.
landed
Oh, yeah.
perfectly. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna be that guy and let you talk
No,
on camera with that
it's
thing.
fine, but
No, no, my bad. I didn't
but
want to interrupt,
no,
but I'm like,
but it is like that. It like kind of circles around and stays on me, and it goes away, and then it comes back. You know what I mean? So like, I remember like every little slight. You know what I mean? I don't like to, I guess, necessarily live with like vengeance, but I am a Virgo rising. You know what I mean? If you're into astrology, so Sag, Sun, Aries, Moon, Virgo rising. So I'm like my dad. Like I like to, as a lawyer, I'm very much like my father when it comes to music. I'm very much like I like to get even. I really do. Like I'm not even like in a mean way. I just, if I was not gonna allowed or not going to say something in the relationship, I will say it later because I'm just like I have to. You know what I mean? So like that album was about that relationship in 2012 when I was dating that girl who had severe PTSD. And then like started doing other stuff. Like I did album called Shards Midnight Mooring, which is about my grandfather's death at the time when he passed away, and that was like devastating for me. There's actually a song, an intro on the second half of Shards Midnight Mooring. So it goes from Shards to Midnight Mooring, which is the series about my grandfather. And the ending of that relationship because there's Midnight Mooring 4, which is not on the album. But the morning mooring or morning with the U, so it's like morning and then morning with a U. Um, I have a voicemail that I left my partner at the time about how devastated I was that my grandfather was dying, or that he was, dead. And yeah, like that's like that's how I've always approached my music. Like I'm very honest and raw. I was talking to A today, who you had, Dr. Doob, up on here a couple months back, because he was the one that referred me to you. You know what I mean? And we were supposed to do it but my brother passed the bar, and then so now we're having a party for him passing the bar because it was the second time. So I mean, he passed. So shout out to Miles, but um, yeah, it was like uh I've always like I'm authentic. Like I'm in the pocket. I rap about things. I think a lot of people would internalize certain thoughts or like make it into some weird metaphor or whatever. Like I'm fucking say it, dude. You know what I mean? So like I got linked up with Teddy Andreas during COVID. It's an underground rapper, really cool with a lot of people that I listen to, like a lot of like those Griselda-esque kind of rappers, underneath them and stuff like that. So sent me a pack. I did an album called Lawyer Fees, which turned out to be like an honorable mention for like top songs of the year. One of the cuts was on in the Providence Journal. So I remember I told my dad that he got out of bed. He like ran to like read the article. I was like, and my father like was actually impressed with me. You know what I mean? So shout out to Rob Jew guy again. But yeah, just and then
Can I jump in and ask you something?
yeah,
How do you stay authentic with your music and not allow whether it's outside influences, social media, other musicians to influence how you write and how you perform?
because I don't give a shit. I really just don't. I really like. I mean, I will listen to people that I trust. Like if I feel like, hey, this isn't good or this needs to be better, like I'll take that to some degree. But truthfully, like I don't really give a shit. Like I don't consider I'm not gonna live or die on someone else's word. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I know you like said later you don't like when people just like just do it, but I truly don't give a shit. Like I value people's opinion. I want people to like my music, but like I send people my music most times because I know it's dope. I just want them to say it back. Like, you know what I mean? So I think I have a chip on my shoulder because of that, but it's because I really don't give a shit.
I
Like
I really like that because I think as people that are creators, like you have to have this like level of like
you
confidence.
have to be delusional.
Yeah, you have to be delusional. You have to be
But also
confident.
this is the thing too that I get into, which is like there's a lot of people who are so delusional, like on social media, and it's like this shit is ass, bro. Like there's no way this is like how does this have so many like like I hate fast rappers. Like I hate it when it's like I'm killed like the venom and them like like this is dog shit to me. You know what I mean? But then you got people in comments, like you're like giving them feedback, being like, not from me, but everyone's got their lane. And you got like motherfuckers arguing with you about your comment. And when the person's like, no big deal, man. And then like they're defending like that person, like they don't even give a shit. Like it's like, man, I just hate rappers. I really do. Like that's why like when I've toured the country, so like I started in 2018, I did a tour right before I ended up getting broken up with my first poly relationship when the Midnight Mooring album was about to come out anyway. And yeah, like did my first tour around New England, all that, like Vermont, played like the rap night in Vermont, the rap night in Portland. The homies Monday of the Minds ran like a 10-year showcase, open mic showcase for touring acts every week essentially, and then became bi-weekly after COVID. So like that was like a great stomping ground for me in Portland to play. But then like, in 2023, I was started really touring, like started first going to Detroit to just do a show. And I did a show at like a vegan coffee shop, a vegan like Jamaican spot, I think it was. And then came home, did like a New England run, but included like Harlem and Long Island and stuff like that. But then I was already going to Long Island back in 2014 because my best friend, all one, Bruce Pandolfo, is like the Aesop Rock on steroids out there, and we did an album called Creative Differences, and it's the wackest rap album I've ever done in my life. Like for me, like he carried the album, like it's incredible. But we played like a show to like 200 people, like 180, like 200 people. Like it was at this place called the Velvet Lounge, which was like a legendary spot, and like no one was there that night, and it was like wild. It was like over at least 150 people there, and by the end of the night it fizzled out, but it was really a lot of fun for me. And that's my best friend. Like he's really someone that pushed me to be my authentic self. And I think Bruce too, like he's someone, he doesn't give a shit. Like he's so what he wants to do and he's going to create. And I think he's also so intellectual that he can see like the flaws and the parlor tricks of a lot of stuff in music and content. Like he's so authentic. Like he does typewriter poetry and all that stuff. Um, like kind of personal. Like I brought him to India Point Park and he climbed the tree. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who does that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, not that I'm hating on that, but like, we're in the middle of fucking January and he's like, I'm gonna go climb that tree. Like, I mean, just so full of life. Or like getting back to the lyrics that I write. Most people would internalize that. Most people are like, I want to climb that tree, but I'm not gonna do that. like, but he's like me in that way. Like, if he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say, you know what I mean? So
And we are getting towards like the back end of the podcast.
yeah,
Like, so like I want to get to stuff in case we've missed it.
yeah.
Diving into the style of music that you're making and how you're taking a lot of feelings, life experiences, traumas, and putting it into your music. How how is that process for you in terms of expressing that out there? Because you're talking about stuff that's like very deep.
I talk about eating disorders for sure, like the bulimia that I've had, you know, and being a binge eater. And I have like a song called "The Body Keeps the Score" too on YouTube, and it's literally in Body One, "Body Keeps the Score" by Drent, like both versions. In the videos, I'm like binge eating McDonald's. You know, the first one I'm going to all these drive-throughs and binge eating in my car and rapping, and then the second one is this amazing song that I made with my friend Sean Dizzy Blade and my producer Tony Mahoney, and like Blade just engineered it so well. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I just like to be confrontational about the issues that I feel. A lot of it is relationship based, and you know, like I have to be very careful because I don't want to get myself in a situation where like I'm writing about stuff and making it about the person. I'm trying to make it about like the healing of that, and also expressing like stuff that I went through. You know what I mean? Because I'm also not like a perfect person. There's plenty of people who could probably like write a song about me or whatever, or be like, I didn't handle this the right way or whatever. You know what I mean? Or write a poem about me or whatever. But like, you know, like I believe in, you know, like this is what I want to talk about. And I talk a lot about like borderline personality. I talk a lot about binge eating. I talk about just trauma in general. Like I have a line in one of my newer songs that I'm working on where I I talk about my autism diagnosis and I say the rents drop 5K for a diagnosis. It's not how you face trauma, how you approach it. You know, I like to just talk about those things. I think it's important. I try to merge those therapies that I talk about and give people exposure to it, you know, and especially in the IFS community, man. Like I ended up meeting a IFS therapist at an open mic in Pawtucket recently, and it was he's like, "No way, you're like a parts rapper." He's like, "That's insane," you know what I mean? So I got to meet Dick Schwartz, who founded that, you know what I mean, that therapy, and he called me the parts rapper, and I've just kind of ran with it, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I just like to talk about. I like to confront trauma. I think a lot of the getting back to what we were talking about off script, like you have to do the work. You really have to do the work. There is an other side to trauma, and the other side is that it doesn't control you, it doesn't own you. It's not a coach bag. Like you're not supposed to walk around with it, and that's the thing that's always bothered me is like, you know, yes, I was afforded opportunities because you know my father worked really hard even though he may have been absent, and I had a mother who was always diligent and trying to make sure I was safe and all that and everything, so I didn't maybe veer off as badly as I would have if I didn't have like that sort of absentee but great provider financially, and then someone who was very concerned about me growing up, and then but like even if like I did the work, like you know, I could have easily faked going through my program and gone home and died. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it. I wanted it that bad. And I want it now. I want it bad when I tour, when I play the South, like New Orleans and Texas, the West Coast, Midwest. I played in Detroit, Chicago. Like I want it that bad. If I okay, you don't want to book me for a show, you can't get me a show, I'll play an open mic and I'll show up and I'll kill it because I want it that bad. Like I mean, I've always wanted like I do believe I hope to, but I do believe I'll win a Grammy one day. You know, and I always say make the joke. I'm say when I win a Grammy, I'm taking the Grammy trophy and I'm pouring champagne and I'm pouring it on a stripper's ass. It's the only time I'm going to a strip club. I've never been to a strip club. So it's like that's what I'm doing. I'm finding a 40-inch booty and I'm with the Grammy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's because it's ignorant. Like that's like, you know, I'm like, I did all this work. But yeah, man, I do believe I'm gonna yeah, even if I don't, I've made it for me. I feel like I've made it. I did not feel that way maybe like 5, 6 years ago, but knowing how hard I've worked and like I've done over 525 shows or open mics to this point. And
People don't do that either, and like you deserve your flowers for that.
yeah,
Like dead ass. Like
a lot of people
people
don't want to
don't.
get. A lot of people don't want to
Well,
get flowers.
for real, like in general, in terms of whether it's content, music, comedy, whatever. Like people don't get out and actually do that. So like the fact that you go out and tour and do that and get in front of people in real life, like you deserve your flowers for
Yeah,
that. Like straight up,
I
man.
believe that the AI crash is gonna be brutal, and that's where I feel like people are gonna be really drawn to me even more because like right now it's just super bullshit. You know what I mean? You got these rich motherfuckers who be like, "Oh, like it's gonna happen. You gotta do it." You know what I mean? But it's like for me, like man, I do believe the human connection prevails all. We're not robots yet. We're not in iRobot world yet. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm a big believer in DIY. Like I consider myself a national touring artist. A lot of like DIY punk people, like I'm big into hardcore and punk and stuff like that. And that's really where I started like talking to you earlier. Your birthday's November 5th. Like shout out the band November 5th, 1955. Like, Jay Moss who started Defeater or Mace started Defeater. Like that CD, like changed my life. And I knew that band and I got that CD because my music mentor, Joe Brown, who pushed me to do music at the program, he was one of like the kind not counselors. He was more just like a someone to watch over the kids at certain times. He's my best friend to this day. He was the one that recorded me the first time at the studio at the at the therapeutic program. And he was the one that pushed me because he was in a band called the World Series. And they were always kind of underrated, never got their flowers. They were always like 5 years too early and 10 years too late. Now, like if they came back, like which they may come back, hopefully, they would be like huge because they're just like there's such a style about them that was so authentic in terms of like grind noise, like um metallic hardcore kind of thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, he pushed me to do like music, you know what I mean? And he was always someone that taught me, he's like, I do what I want to do, man. I don't give a shit what people like. If they don't like it, fuck them. You
I think
know?
it's a good mentality to have, man. I really do. But we are getting towards like that end of the podcast.
Damn, man,
So
I
like
could
I
do
want
like
to,
another 2 hours,
dude, we
bro.
could go. Like
We
you
could
got a
lock.
lot to you, man. You're a
We
trip.
could lock in, man. Like for real. I'll honestly, if you want to do like an extended version at some point, I'll come by. I'll smoke a little. I don't smoke weed. I mean, I smoke weed now a little bit. But like I said, if it's not indica, if it's indica, don't give it to me because I will be like, why is my eyeball in my hand?
Yeah, we'll
So
have to set it up and go into some more stuff. Because we won't have to go through all the beginning stuff. We can just get into stuff
yeah,
and like because like that's part. It's for people that don't know. Like it's my so like the Carroll Connection is like my universe, basically, quote unquote. And like
this is
this
like
is
the
your intro.
MCU of therapy.
Yeah, like it's an introduction to the universe, basically.
Oh
So like
yeah,
when you come back, you don't have to do that stuff again. We just
oh yeah,
we just get into the things because like, and that's why it's always hard squeezing things into an hour podcast because like
yeah,
how do you squeeze your life into an hour? Like it's not possible. So like it's being selective and it's hard as a host too because like I also am talking and interviewing and like trying to go with you on this journey. So like it like
I appreciate you letting me go.
yeah, no, like I'm big on like this is your episode. This might be the Carroll Connection. It's my podcast. This is your episode. Like people hear me all the time yapping on my stuff and like talking. Like I'll show you the numbers. People don't care for my solos. Like,
Yeah,
but like when I let people on and let people do their thing, like that's when I'm in my element, and I
oh
enjoy
yeah,
that because you're being your authentic self when you're on here, and I don't want you to be any different than that.
yeah,
And that's part of the reason you're even here. Like, because when I look at your stuff, like if someone sends me your stuff and they're like, this could be a good guest, like I am the ultimate decider if someone comes on my
yeah.
podcast. So like I look through people's stuff and like if I feel like you're being yourself, like I'm down to talk and
What was
figure
the
it out.
reason you were happy to have me on the podcast?
Mental health stuff all day. Like the fact that you're a trauma rapper and you talk about things like that, like people don't do that. Like
Yeah,
people don't actually open up about that stuff. And I like the way that you're confident about it. Like you're
oh
not
yeah, man.
like a this is not like a diss towards this type of music, but like NF. Like I like
I
NF.
loved NF for a while, man, but man, he just became like Diet MAGA.
I
Like, you know
just
what I mean?
I
It's like
just
it's almost getting Tom McDonald.
it's more with the depressing like monotone
So
like
hunger though.
I
Like,
just
there was so much hunger with him.
I
Though.
like the way that you kind of just attack it. Like it sounds like it's rap, it's hip hop, like you're getting after, and it's almost punky, and I kind of like that. Like
Yeah, I love
and like and
hardcore,
obviously
man.
you're talking about how you like that, and I could see
Yeah,
the influence in the music, and that's the stuff that kind of drew me to definitely having you on the podcast. And And
Yeah, my
hearing all
dream would to just be play with like hardcore bands all the time.
yeah,
You
and
know, but
like
it's like I opened up for like this guy Octolopoulos or something. My friend Josh Marcy booked him. He was like from France.
mhm.
He's like this famous grindcore act, and he did this whole set about how like the COVID-19 vaccine was gonna like take over or whatever, and we became mutants. And it's like all the green screen, and it's got like videos and shit, and he's like a video game while playing, and it was just like. Yeah, I'm not really into like the conspiracy theory shit, but this is like my dream. I want to play like in a dive bar with 19 people and just like, like just fucking tour. Dude, put me on tour till I'm in a fucking nursing home. And then when I'm in a nursing home, I run an open mic either way. We're gonna do an open mic at the nursing home. I'll be like, we all have parts. You know what I mean? So like,
I just like I like the energy that you bring to life, and
oh
like
yeah,
I
man.
think that's unique about you, and I think you should keep that
I'm
forever.
35, man, but I feel like I tell myself my energy, I feel like I'm always 28. That's my
You're
favorite number too. You know
feel
what I
like
mean?
just
So,
like a young person, just like you got everything to you.
dude,
I like the energy that you bring, and like I could feel it, and that's why like I'm big on in person interviews. I don't do virtual podcasts. Like if you go through my, I've never done one because like I feel like I wouldn't get to know you if I'm not sitting across from you.
yeah.
Because like there's stuff that you might say to me in real life that if we're on a computer screen, like you might not want to tell me. Like because it's just to me inauthentic. Going back to the stuff we talked
Yeah.
about, like I'm just not about. And there's nothing against those people that create that stuff. There's a place for that, and I just
There also was
personally.
a time during COVID too where like people didn't really know like the world, and then you just kind of end up adapting like this thing where like you would see
It just opens up though. Like there's connections that you can
Instagram
get.
ads for rappers. That was like everywhere during COVID. Like every F grade, even like someone on my level was just like putting out Instagram ads, and it was just like this is insufferable. Because
Yeah.
before you used to get like, oh wow, I really need that like towel rack or whatever, like you know what I mean. And then it was just like, yo, this my new song, this my new single. We just dropped the song of the summer, like the song of April. Like you know, what I mean? It was just like that. COVID fucked up so much, man. Like in a way where it was just like even for me, man, I was gonna play a really cool show with a lot of indie legends that have now kind of gone in different directions, and they all adapted well to the online thing. I took 2 years off, and then in 2022, I did uh like a live performance podcast on the Artist Jackie show. And Artist Jackie is an incredible trans artist, an amazing person, and I've been DIY going to every open mic and show I can. And there's shows to me. Anyone who says open mics aren't shows is a fucking loser. Because it's like if you're willing to tell yourself that it's not a real performance because it's not like a show or there's not like a ticket or there's not like money involved, then it's like you don't take your craft seriously. Because like I've never seen Michael Jordan like play one on one with someone and not think he's gonna beat them 11-0. Like you know what I mean? Like you should never have that mindset where it's like, well, like I'm not playing or like a referee game or like in the NBA, like I'm retired or whatever. Like I mean, if your mindset is like you're gonna beat someone one on one or you're gonna do this type of basketball thing, like be great at it. You know what I mean? So it's kind
Yeah,
of like
I mean, I love that. But I have the last question for you, Drent.
gotcha.
So we'll hit that and then we'll wrap things up. But what would your advice be for someone who wants to pursue their passion?
Be okay with not pursuing your passion. I'm not gonna lie. There's too many artists, there's too much content, and too many people making slop that sometimes it's really okay to just work a 9 to 5. It really is. Like it's okay. We need people like that. We don't need people being like I'm a mental health expert or like I'm a life coach or I'm a rapper or a Christian MAGA rapper. Like we don't need that. We need people to deliver groceries. Like that's fine. You know what I mean? Like it's fine to not do your creative thing all the time. Like you can do it if you want to, but be good at it. And don't just be good at it like don't try to hurt people in the process either. Because there's way too much of that now, I think, with this current administration. Like, people now will put something out and have no repercussions. They'll say something about someone with no repercussions. Like, they don't really give a shit. And, and a lot of that goes back to, like, the president who just. But, like, it's okay to be normal. For me, it wasn't my route. I had to work really hard to get to where I was to be good because I was not good for a while. Man, sometimes it's okay. You don't got to do it. And if you're not, And I'll tell you this, anything you see on the internet, creative or not, get it from someone you trust. Psychologically, mental health wise, be in a room with someone. Really do the work. Don't be on Instagram sharing a meme and thinking that's like bringing you closer to the craft or the work. Do it with someone you trust. Love yourself enough to be online and realize a lot of that shit, it's not real. It's never been real. So be comfortable with being normal. Be comfortable with doing real work that isn't always shown on camera or in front of a social media platform, and keep pushing, keep moving. Fuck ICE, fuck Trump, and when that shit don't work, like it says on my arm, forever onward, we all have parts. And so
Perfect. And I really like that, and the fact that you're talking about just being normal. I'm actually a pretty big advocate of people just like you don't have to do this stuff. Like there's a lot of people
like,
out
bro,
here.
I want my bar. The thing you said about Northern and Southerners. I mean to cut you off, but it's so perfect to what you said. You want your barista to be blue haired leftist, and you want your tax professional to be very much Republican. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to just be that way. Like, not everyone has to be into like goth, punk, hardcore, extreme music, or be a trauma informed rapper, or be talking about trauma. Like, it's okay to like have people who are just like, yeah, I just want to have a family and a dog and watch Netflix, and or have my little prepared. Like, I mean, like people, you got a lot of people on the internet, man. It's such a great meme. But there was this time I was like, what do you do for work? I'm a driver for Dior Daché. And it's like, what do you do? I'm an underwater ceramics technician, a dishwasher. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I think I've seen that one.
you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? But it's like, it's okay to like just be normal, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's been shamed out of society for some. I don't know why. I don't know where that's
You
coming
need
from.
normal people, man. You need normal people to like.
Most of us are normal. It's just the people. And this is a whole different conversation. We don't.
People are definitely trying to escape the reality that they may be normal.
Mm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's something you should talk about in therapy, which is like, why do I have to work so hard on this platform, or why do I have to put on this mask? I mean, like, you know, a lot of people out there giving mental health advice. You don't know if they're personality disordered. You don't know if they have BPD. You don't know if they got MPD. You don't know if they have, yeah, they're bipolar or whatever. But it's like, I don't know if I want my therapist like when I'm in a room being like, yeah, I'm bipolar. Like, I kind of want someone who's done the work or doesn't say it, like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think you got to be okay with being normal, man. Like, there's a lot of great things about being normal. You know what? Like, that doesn't mean you should be independent and be like, I can't tell between housing and healthcare for all and bombing children in Palestine. Like, that's should not be a moderate. Like, you know what I mean? But man, like, you know, it's okay to just be you. And being you doesn't always mean being that dream person. Just showing up. That's half the battle, man. Most people, they're not even showing up. So if you just show up and do your thing, man, that's cool.
I think that's the perfect knot to just or bow to tie on this, and just Trent. I appreciate you so much for coming on here and just being you, because
Yeah.
like I really love episodes and people just can just go like just be you, just talk about what you've gone through,
I'll
talk about
definitely
your
be back,
craft.
man.
Like I really enjoy that stuff where I don't have to always carry a conversation either. Like that's always a tough podcast. Like I just hit start, Drent, go. Just
Dude,
go.
we could
Just go.
honestly do 2-3 hours, man. Like, I could.
It's hard to like shrink it, but like it's worth it for one
Hey, man,
workload.
you
It's
gotta
just like,
stop thinking about whether it's digestible for people or not.
well,
Like,
it's also a workload for me. Do
my
I want to
man,
sit
but
3 hours editing a podcast?
hey,
Like
man,
I don't want to do that.
dude,
Like,
just put it up raw. Like, you know
well,
what I mean?
it basically is. I got to like format the cameras though.
You know
Like
what I mean? But
there's
it's like,
editing to that.
but it's like, like my man All One, he rapped this song about like a solar system that was like thousands and thousands of years away and stuff like that, and how light goes to and all that. I'm like, man, I'm not gonna get that. But it's like, fucking do it, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, would I rather hear someone be like Mob Deep, like, you know, like, I'm the type of dude that fight rhymes. P, yeah, you heard of him, but I ain't concerned with them. Man, I pop more guns than you holding them. Like, that's more digestible. But it's like, man, you want to rap about solar systems or like, you know, whatever? Do it, man. Like, but like I said, be okay with not doing your art. I don't want to sound elitist and gatekeeping. You got too many people giving out free game and it's not even practice, bro. It's like just not worth doing. So
Perfect. But Drent, you want to look into this camera, plug where the people can find you?
all socials, Drent Party. That's DRENT Party. You want to look up certain songs, type in Drent Parts P2RTS. That's parts 2 for parts. Body Keeps the Score 2. I got a new album coming out hopefully soon called A Peaceful Violence. It's going to be a remix of a Haley Hendrix album called I Need to Start a Garden, which is like some of my favorite music ever. And Lawyer Fees 2 on the way. Not that anyone really gives a shit about that. Lawyer Fees 1 was whatever, you know, but my brother will be on the cover this time and not my dad. So, you know, just, hey man, I'm touring. I'm just going to try to play like as many states as possible, many parts of the world as possible, and try to make people feel something. That's kind of all. It's the whole point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Perfect. And again, thank you for coming on the podcast. And for you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check it out, thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search Jared M. Carroll or The Carroll Connection, and it should pop up. If you want to be a guest, return as guest, hit me up on the same places. And plugging the 5 Pillars of Creating Meaningful Life, only available on Amazon. And if you like the book and you want to submit a review on Amazon, it goes a long way in the algorithm, so please do so. Until next time, guys, you got something?
Be a part of the Carroll universe. This is like the MCU of mental
Yeah,
health.
Carroll Connection universe. Be a part of it. Till next time, guys.
Peace.
Peace.